fixtures turned off again, go back up, it'd come back on. Lights in the bedrooms would turn on.
The electrical appliances, the oven, the microwave, all that stuff. You'd hear the alarms going off in the living room, nobody had been in there for an hour or better.
Kind of graduated to, I think, one of the weird things we saw. We had ceiling lights in the, I think it was the living room, dining room, and they had these chains on them. They had little wooden balls hanging, and we might be sitting on the couch watching TV. The ceiling fans weren't even on, but the chains would start to swing. They'd start turning like that, and I remember on one occasion we were sitting there, and it was almost like somebody was underneath it, flicking it, because the ball just started to bounce up and down. That was probably one of the first things that I know I couldn't explain.
We talked to the landlord about it. He, got the electrician out there, and there wasn't anything wrong with the electrician. So the next time it happened, which was just days later, I jokingly said, "Oh, well, we must have a ghost or something." It never happened after that. It stopped. And you think, "Oh, that's great," but it kind of escalated into a new way of presenting itself to you, and that was more or less this little girl.
Yeah, it started out, I'd come home from work one morning, and I'd gone in to get something to drink in the kitchen, and I walked over to the fridge. I think, to be specific, I got some orange juice. I poured the glass, and as I turned around, there's this little girl standing in the kitchen, and it didn't really kick in at first, because here's this little girl, but she was dressed kind of funny. Like, I remember she had like on a really white lace dress, and she had a white ribbon in her hair, and she was looking at me like she was surprised to see me. And I just remember thinking for a minute, where did she come from? And then I realized I could see the door through her, and that was my first inkling of, we've got a ghost, and it terrified me. I probably cried like a little baby. I remember running upstairs.
Didn't cry, but he sure was out of breath and panting a lot.
I was trying to tell her I saw her, and
I'm
I couldn't.
pissed.
And
I'm thinking, I'm the one that's always wanted a ghost. Why didn't I have the chance to see her?
But she's the first one. There's a little picture that, and you'll probably see of her, a little girl, Sally, and that was her suggestion, because I was almost hyperventilating trying to tell her about it, and I've drawn all my life since I was a little kid. And she said, "Just draw her." So that was like a 10-minute sketch of what I saw. Things kind of escalated from that. It was like,
Well, for a time, we really did think that there was this little girl in the house, and that she was trying to get his attention. And we think that the balls moving around in the ceiling fan was her way of letting us know that she was around and her presence was there. But then there were times, Tony, I embraced this spirit adventure we were in.
well, let me go back for a minute. We had a psychic come in to the house because of what I saw and things we were experiencing. And the psychic had suggested to Deb that suggested to us that we treat this little girl like she was our own. She claims this little girl was there, wanting to protect our baby, and just to embrace her. Deb was able to do that. I could not do that. It just seemed wrong. I can't explain why, but everything there just, it felt wrong to me, and I couldn't walk through the house and act like I had to sit in the room, talk to somebody who wasn't there.
It was awkward.
Yeah.
But we thought that that's what we were being told to do, to live in concert with this spirit.
So this went on for a little while until things started to escalate. We laying in bed, you would hear footsteps going up and down the steps all night. We did have cats, but we would come out, and I remember one particular night, it was just driving me nuts. I could hear them running up and down, and I come out, and I was bound determined to catch one of the cats. And as I stood at the top of the stairs, when it got to the top of the stairs, I just felt this cold air rush by me, and I heard kids giggling, not just one kid, but several kids giggling. And I got this burst of cold air, and it just freaked me out, because I don't like giggling. It kind of went from there to where the scratching started. We were, the teddy bear. I'll let you explain teddy bears.
Okay, when we moved, from the time my son was born, basically, our son, he was woke up all the time, like almost every hour in the hour. He'd be clean, he'd be dry, he'd be fed, he'd be warm, everything you check on for your infant. And yeah, we were new parents and we were chaotic in our thinking. But we thought we had everything covered. And it would happen night after night after night. And my sister finally came down. She had a little girl a year prior. And so she thought maybe she could be a bit of help. So she stayed with us. And on her last night, she was there for about a week. And on her last night there, we all came from mom and dad's. We visited mom and dad's all day, had the scary movies and, all the baby stuff. And, we decided we're just going to bed down, put the baby down, and just enjoy an adult evening. And I think you had gone upstairs, came downstairs.
Well, we'd come home and I went to put the baby bag away or everything away. And I'd gone up in the nursery, and when I got up there were several toys that were taken off, mainly stuffed animals taken off, and they were arranged in a circle. And I thought it was a little odd because Deb's not like that. Everything has its place and it's put back in her place.
I'm anal.
So I just come down and I'd asked her and her sister, so were you guys up in the room playing with the baby today? Because the toys are out, in the circle. And they kind of looked at me funny like, no, why? So we went back up and here's these toys circled, and they didn't know why.
We hadn't put them there, so we put them all back. We're all trying to think who could have done this. And we turned the light out, went back down the stairs, and for whatever reason, we turned back around. I think we heard the light switch. And we turned back around, and the light in the bedroom's back on again in the nursery. So we go back upstairs, and one of the stuffed animals is laying in the middle of the floor again. And we're kind of in a panic now, and now we're thinking, okay, somebody's playing games on us. We're checking the windows, we're checking for wires, we're checking for magnets in the stuffed animals, we're checking for people hiding in the closets, And this happened, I think we ended up going up one more time before we stood there, pretty well dumbfounded in the nursery doorway. Nobody wanted to confirm what everybody was thinking.
Yeah, we were all thinking ghosts, but I didn't want to be the first one to say it.
Yeah.
But the stuffed animals literally had to travel like 5 foot. I mean, they were pick up,
They
put
were
up on shelves.
on shelves, they were on chairs, they were in the bassinet, the crib or whatever. They were from all over the room. And we had 2 cats, but 2 cats aren't going to arrange them on the floor.
It was just really freaky. Like I said, it's one of the first times when your brain can't rationalize. I mean, electrical stuff, you're making excuses, stuff like that. But that was the first time that we really could not make an excuse.
We had run out of ways to explain what was going on. So we called his brother, one of his brothers that was very level-headed. We knew we had experienced something, but wanted somebody else level-headed to kind of point us in the right direction of what do we do, where do we go. Of course, nothing happened when he came over, and he offered to put us in touch with his boss's sister, who was the first psychic that actually had come out to our house. She was born in our little town of Atchison, had since moved out to California, and had made quite a name for herself, going to different homes. Some people want a haunted home, so she would check out these homes for people. Anyway, she was coming into town to visit family, and she did visit with us and gave us quite a bit of insight. We were brought smells. We sat with her for about 2 hours, and we were brought smells and sounds and
Captured several photos of something.
really amazing photos. And we probably ran into some of them behind us here.
Can I point out, let's not pay attention to my like a curly Joe Dirt mullet back there.
It was 25 plus years ago, so.
She was actually the first psychic that came up with the name Sally. She had told us that there was a little girl there named Sally. Like I told you before, she was protective of the baby. And she was the first one that told us to embrace it and all that. When things escalated,
She was the one that introduced us to sightings. Apparently, she did paranormal talks at the universities out in California. She was always being approached by, these TV shows, Unsolved Mysteries, and all those different things. And she said she'd been approached for several weeks in a row, and she thought she would bring this information to us and say, once you embrace one of these, your whole life is going to change. How much could it change? We're just, sharing our story, right? We did end up going with the smaller one because we live in a very small town. It's very Bible Beltish, you know.
My family
you know,
permeates that town.
Yeah.
And I my parents did a really good job of giving us a good name in that town. And I'm like, God, I'm gonna be the first Pickman to like totally ruin that name. You got one crazy one in your family. So it really was a hard decision to come out and be on, especially on a television show.
A national
with it.
television show.
But we also, at the time, were really looking for help. And back then, your paranormal was just so taboo. You just didn't talk about it.
You didn't have options. You didn't know who was doing good work or who to contact. What kind of a paranormal
Yeah,
investigator
there weren't little
contact.
groups around like there are now to get a hold of. So that was our basically only outlet that we knew about. And she put us in contact with sightings. They came up, and it kind of.
They came up about 5 different times, and
Yeah.
every time they came up, activity kind of escalated just a little bit. Something happened. He always got scratched or attacked in some form every time
Stuff
they came up.
didn't just happen to me, it was happening to their cast members. So they were totally excited. They'd go back, and next time you'd have 3 more cast members come up because they all wanted to experience it.
It was so engaging for the cast, you know, the crew that was there taping, that when they go back and tell everybody else, sharing that excitement. The host of the show actually came out. He never came out to the field. And he was a little flabbergasted, not quite knowing. He was actually talking to Tony, and Tony was having.
Yeah, we were in the kitchen one night, and he was a real big skeptic. I mean, that was his job, was to come up and disprove us. And as he's talking to me in the kitchen, his eyes got this big, and I just remember him saying, "We will do whatever we can to help you." But he pointed out to my head, I had a word start appearing across my forehead. I can't even remember what it said. It was something he recognized, but it was really scratched in my forehead.
Can you guys in the back hear us okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're good.
So at this point, we're thinking still, we're dealing with a little girl spirit. And shortly after the first sightings, I think it was Christmas, and we were taking pictures at Christmas time, and one of the pictures came back. It was distinctly showing 2 separate entities. One was very murky and gassish, almost, gaseous.
You could see the movement in it.
And
It
the
was-
other one was like mobilized Christmas lights. I mean, they were 2 different, and we were told by the psychic at the time that the colors that are being depicted offer an insight as to the emotion that's attached to it. The murky one was not very nice, but the other one was brilliant, lots of excitement there. Come to find out that we didn't have just this little girl spirit that we thought. We had an older female, which Tony happened to see several times.
Yeah, probably one of my worst experiences in the house was well, things were really bad for me. I don't even know where to start. It started out with a single scratch on my back. We were upset about something happening there in the house. We were getting ready to go to my parents' house, and I was putting the baby, strapping him in the car seat, and I felt this sharp, what to me felt like a bug bite or a sting on my back. I didn't think much about it until we got to my parents' house, and it was really burning. I mean, my back was on fire. So I had her look at it, and she just let out a little scream.
I about dropped to my knees.
Those were the first scratches I had.
They were about that long. There were 3 of them on this lower portion of his back here. And it was the first-hand, I mean, I really didn't think that ghosts could physically harm somebody else or put a mark on them. And that's, I think, why I about dropped to my knees, because it was very overwhelming. And that, I think, changed the game for us.
Yeah, that really
in a way.
escalated things. That's when all the scratching started. It was so common just to get scratched. I had horrible dreams when I was in the house. If I tried to sleep, I would have horrible nightmares. Everything from I would see a little colored boy being hung in the master bedroom of our room, just really vivid. I would see a woman that would try to mess with me. She'd start out at my thighs, and I could literally see. I could never wake her up to
No,
see
you
it.
did that
I did
last
finally.
time.
But
He
I
did.
would see
He
her
had
hands coming
handprints.
up my
I
legs.
can't do it because your hands can't do that.
that going up, you know, like up his legs. They were handprints.
Okay, I really didn't try to wake her up. They really did escalate, and we noticed when sightings would come up, every time things would get worse. And so we fought like cats and dogs, you know, to let them come up again, because I was literally getting scared. I didn't know what would happen. I thought, you know, I literally started thinking I was the exorcist person. I'm getting scratched all the time. I can't explain it. They're just showing up. I was really scared, and nobody was catching on to that. I don't think. I couldn't talk about it at work. I couldn't talk about it with my parents.
This kind of brings up the topic that he was being affected one way by this entity, and I was being affected another. I embraced it. I probably was the one that welcomed it into the house because I accepted it for that little girl that we thought it was. He didn't, so he kept trying to get his acceptance. So it would show in several different ways to him to gain that acceptance. And then when he got frustrated enough that he couldn't do that because he was stone cold, no, I'm not going in this route. It actually started the possessional, you know, in the demonic haunts. They talked about the different stages. The oppression, he started feeling well before I knew it. And that was, you know, nobody was there listening to him, could be there for him. He worked second shift, or third shift. And so when he came home, he was supposed to be sleeping while the baby and I were up. Well, he wanted to be up too, the newborn baby. He wants to spend time with family. So he's getting very little sleep. And very little, even more sleep because, you know, you're trying to sleep during the daytime off your, you know, your normal routine. And I'm usually a very logical person, and, you know, I ask a lot of questions and stuff like that, but I just assumed that he was sleep deprived, and everything that he was going through had to do with being sleep deprived. And
does that look like sleep deprived?
Yeah.
Puzzles.
What? Now you have me, no, I forgot where I was going.
Right and short, if things got really bad,
It stepped up its game. There was a time where he was laying on the couch, I was sitting on the couch, he had fallen asleep, and he had sat up, he looked me straight in the eye. It was almost like a mechanical sitting up, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of, you know how you get up from laying down, it was more mechanical. And he looked me straight in the eye and said, "He's mine." And it was his voice. It was something not quite right. There was something off. And then he laid back down. And at the time, you know, I'm thinking, okay, newborn babies, you know, he's worried about somebody coming and taking his baby. I'm probably standing in the middle of it too. So I kind of blew it off. You know, you try and rationalize so many different things. But honestly, that should have been a red flag. And had I had the experience, of course, that I have now, yeah, that's a red flag. That was the first step to possession. And fortunately, there were a couple more incidences.
There were several that, like I said, I was working nights, so I would come home. When I tried to sleep, I was hearing the whole scratching in the walls behind the bed. I tried to think it was squirrels at first. And I'd hear a lot of growling. And then what would sound like whispering, it would sound like 7 or 8 people trying to whisper in my ear at the same time. I could never make it out. I made out one word. I would hear a scream, and I don't even like saying the word because I found out later it's a demonic thing. And when that would happen, that room would just go haywire for me. Everything from, we had 2 tables on each side of the bed. The drawers would just start opening and slamming shut. The bed would rock. We had a really heavy water bed, but it was almost like someone was jumping up and down because it was sloshing me up to where I was flopping up and off the bed. I would always see this older woman. I refer to her as, I don't know, you guys will. little house on the prairie, had a store owner's wife. That's what she looked like. She just looked mean. And she would materialize down at the end of the bed and then come around to my side. And I always remember she would reach for me like this, reach for my neck. And I'd be so scared, I just kind of, I don't know, try to back up, and I'd hear the words, "I'm gonna." And by the time I'd hear those words, I would see a big black bird on her hand that would just appear, and then she was gone, and everything would calm down. But it got so bad that we had a tall boy dresser at the end of the bed, and it literally lifted up about 2 inches, the top part of it, spun around and slammed back down. And it was just so loud. I remember this time I was on my hands and knees because I was so scared. I remember just kind of oozing out of bed, and I was trying to open the door, but I couldn't get the door to open. I don't know if I was just so scared or if it really wouldn't open, but I was trying to scream and I could not even scream, and that even had me more scared. So finally, here, the door
I
opens.
could
She's like, "What are
barely
you
hear
doing?"
like a very forced scream, my name. And I heard it several times. Each time I said, "What?" You know, and each time no answer. Well, the last time I was a little perturbed because he did not answer me. And I said, "What?" And at that time, I just opened the door, and he's on all fours. His eyes are bugging out of his head, and he's panting, and you didn't hear any of that? And I'm like, hear what? I was completely oblivious to any action that was taking place in that room.
So can some of that mess with like your sleep paralysis?
Mhm.
I'm sure so.
Yeah.
See, I have
looked into
sleep
that.
paralysis, and
Yeah.
I tell you,
It'd be
it's
just
it's
bad.
creepy.